This is gonna get a little darker, so I apologize. I don't think I'm still with you, so you guys can sit. Is there somebody that was murdered? You have that? Yeah. Do you have a son?
Yes.
Okay. So how do I tie your son into that story?
They were close.
Okay. So is that like his friend or your friend?
It was my friend. But
Okay.
He was close to him.
But your son's living, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what's the baseball connection?
My son was very into baseball.
Okay. So Michael is who?
My son.
Okay. Just know that this is their way of letting you know that they're together. Alrighty? Thank you so much. You're very welcome.
Wow. For the last 3 decades, psychic medium John Edward has helped thousands of people with his ability to communicate with those who have crossed over to the other side.
Please welcome John Edward to the show. It's wild to see the reactions of the people when you make a connection. At what age did you realize you had this gift? And do you call it a gift, or is it almost kind of like a curse?
Well, it's funny you should say this. So I was 15 when I was told that I had this ability.
Ability,
Yeah.
Yes.
And I like to get rid of the word gift because I feel like when you say somebody has a gift in this field, it's kind of emphasizing that it's about them, and it's not. It's really about the energy and the connection. And I think one of the things about my work is to get people to recognize that they actually don't need the medium if they pay attention to what's happening around them. So the gift is the connection, however that happens.
But you were 15, said you were told. How did you know you had it?
So I went to debunk a woman who was doing readings at my grandmother's house, and I wanted to prove to my family that they were crazy for actually giving her money to
Really?
Yes.
And what happened when you got there?
She changed my life because she knew stuff that she could not possibly have known. Like, I would have had to have been with her, hung out with her, confessed things to her for her to know the things that she knew. And I just was like, this is not cool. And I didn't go like, oh my God, she said I'm psychic. I thought about it in terms of, this feels like a violation. So my development was, this woman's definitely got something freaky and I don't like the way it feels. So I want to learn how to make sure nobody else could do that. So I equated to, if you have ever been robbed, that's when people put their alarm system in. I was looking for the energy alarm system. And then sitting on the floor of the public library, I was like, it's not psychic. It's common sense. Like, everybody does this. So now I had people had written books for decades before I was even born, talking about parapsychology, metaphysics, and putting it in terms of like what I thought was normal. So I had to go back and reframe like a decade earlier. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it something that you nurture and you can develop, and you need to sort of practice, if you will, to really sort of sharpen the ability, the skill set?
Absolutely. I feel like our psychic ability is very much like a muscle. The more you work it out, the better that muscle can be, the stronger you're going to be. The type of workout that you do and how else you kind of treat that is going to help it to develop. I also equate it to being like an instrument.
I remember crossing over with John
the show's
Edward,
so
and
great.
it was very successful. I remember a while back. Are people fascinated with afterlife just because they need closure?
I think as a society, we don't talk about death enough. I don't think people are prepared for death. I think people put so much emphasis on religion and theology in this place that they don't think about what comes next. And I think a lot of people are actually left empty when somebody passes. And there's just like, okay, well now what? Well, you can go to church and you can go to temple and you can pray and all that stuff is great. But the reality is, how do you navigate grief? So I think the success of crossing over, the success of what I've done when I do live stuff now on social media, is that people get an immediate understanding and then they can go, I can identify with that. So if somebody's not navigating grief, because guys, grief is patient, it will wait for you. It will literally wait. And you can work on something as much as you think, and then you hear that song on the radio,
Sure.
and you're done.
And it's different for everyone.
It is
The
completely
price
different.
of love. And
It is.
oh, it is. Well, speaking of social media, has that changed what you're able to do and how many people you're able to help?
So I've always done live stuff. Like I've been doing this for a long time. So I've been on a lot of live shows, whether it be like, callers, so whether it be radio or
Hold
TV
on.
shows. Well, the internet is now basically that and giving the opportunity. So whether it be doing like Facebook Live or TikTok Live,
What's the most common question you get asked?
are they okay?
Oh, I love that.
Are they okay?
And what's percentage-wise, what would you say if they're okay, what, 50% of the time, 90%?
All of it. All of the
All of
time.
All the time.
I've never had somebody come through going, I'm having a bad afterlife.
I'm really struggling out here.
Yeah, it's like, can you
Really?
throw me a few prayers? Like, I haven't really had that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I love
encouraging.
that. And from your show, crossing into what you do, it feels closure even watching it. I think a lot of people can relate to whatever you're going through.
Because people vicariously go, I lost my mom. I remember once doing a reading for someone, and their their father had just passed, and they had just gotten married. And she had come to me for a reading, and her dad talked all about the wedding. He talked about the menu. He talked
he was
about who was
there.
at it. He talked about like all of these awesome things. And at the end, I remember I thanked her for picking me, and she said, "Why are you thanking me?" You, and I said, "I just lost my mom."
Wow.
I said, "So I know that one day when I get married, when I have kids." So I did the reading when I was able to actually experience healing through watching it.
I think
Great.
that's so
great.
cool.
Yeah, must be therapeutic for you too.
Absolutely.
We've got some movies
Yes.
that sort of
Okay.
have touched on this. We're going to look at a scene and you tell us what part we can take away
Sure.
from this. Let's start with The Sixth Sense.
The classic.
She wanted me to tell you.
Oh, please.
She wanted me to tell you she saw you dance. She said, when you were little, you and her had a fight. Right before your dance recital. You thought she didn't come to see you dance. She did.
Oh, so John, you said these movies could help us deal with grief. Anybody going through it? What about this movie, this
So
scene?
specifically this scene, there's nothing scary that happened in it. There was nothing suspenseful or thrilling in the way the rest of the movie is produced. This is a real moment between a kid and his mom, validating that there's a survival of consciousness with information that let that mom know that her mom saw her.
Oh,
And that's the key to this work. Not oh, they're okay and they're with you and they love you, but information that in that moment that woman, that mom knows, like, oh my God, my mom was there. So I love the fact that the last name of the character was Seer, by the way, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Next, we have a clip from the last season of This Is Us.
I love you, Mom.
This is quite sad, isn't it? The end.
Oh, I don't know. The way I see it, if something makes you sad when it ends, it must have been pretty wonderful when it was happening.
It's a good line.
Oh,
It is. I think I've watched that episode like 3 or 4 times so far. I think that episode alone should be like, everybody should watch it in grief counseling, because it gives the opportunity to show how a soul who's leaving the physical world as they're transitioning gets a chance to communicate with their loved ones and friends on both sides of the veil. I often will say it's like putting a camera in the water where you can see the fish swim and the birds fly, but they're two worlds that coexist. And I think this episode, I think it was the penultimate episode of this entire series, was so moving, because it's like this character's life review, of which I believe we all do. We all do a life review. The only thing is, I don't think when we're leaving, we are sad. I think that we're sitting in understanding of the life that we just led. And it's more about love than sadness.